You for inviting me to be part of tonight.
Thank you so much for coming.
Really honoured to do this one. I've actually had two moments in the last couple of weeks where breastfeeding stories made me do a real double take. So if you'll just bear with me, I want to share them with you. One of them was a couple of days ago, City of Cape Town sent out a press release about what it's doing for Breastfeeding Week. And in that release was the comment that while the city has noted an incremental increase in the number of women breastfeeding exclusively, it has not yet reached its 50% target.
So low.
It's so low. It's 43 is where they're currently sitting. And that means less than half of the new moms coming through the city clinic system are being supported to be able to breastfeed exclusively for the first 6 months. And it's a figure that baffles me because there is a freely available, nutritiously ideal option, and it's not being taken advantage of by more than half of the new moms in the city. And there are lots of reasons for that. I know it's a very complex issue, but one of the things I thought about that is we're not doing enough. We're not doing enough to support women in the spaces where they need support to enable breastfeeding, and that includes, and I speak from very close personal experience here, when they go back to work at the end of maternity leave. So that brings me to the second story that I heard this week. On Friday, I was lecturing at Stellenbosch University at the medical campus, doing a chat with some of the students around communication, and I hope they won't mind me naming them, but leaving, the lecturer said to me, we're incredibly proud, and we will be sending you a press release during Breastfeeding Week, that Stellenbosch has just launched its policy on breastfeeding that insists that the campus be made a safe space and a welcoming space for students and staff who are breastfeeding. And I had a very torn response to that, because part of me went, well done, that's great, and the other part of me went, what the hell took so long? It's 2019. Okay, so that's the sort of context that I approached today's conversation from, with those two stories in mind. And Leah, I'm interested to start by talking about what context you came to this from, because you're not a mom yourself. Why did you start talking about breastfeeding and photographing breastfeeding in this way? What was the inspiration?
Well, I think a lot of people have been very surprised that I would work on such a large-scale project about the subject, because in the past I've worked much more with a sort of sexy breast. I've worked with Playboy for a number of years, and I've done a lot of nudes, and that's sort of more the direction my work has appeared to be. But my interest is in working with women in all the different roles that they play in life. And I started working on this self-motivated project, and I just realized it was a great central point for so many debates, because the breast is two parts of women's identity. It's both sexual and it's maternal, and it's so confusing for people, I think.
And it's so linked to our sense of aging as well.
Going down!
But I mean, it's fascinating. It is this ability to see it in both lights that is so central to your book, and which is so hard for some people to do, which is why we have so many women finding that they're being shamed, or at the very least looked at askance if they choose to breastfeed in public. Because I think I said during our interview this afternoon on air that men, but in fairness it's not only men, it's other women too, who cannot divorce those two and find it difficult to see the breast as desexualized.
Yeah, that's true.
So I know that was a big part of the inspiration for the book. My second big question is how you found these women, because again, if you were a mom yourself, you've been locked into that network of the moms and tots and the clinics and all of that. How did you go about finding the 101 women?
Well, that is very much part of the concept of the book, actually, was to get women to return to the tradition of actually communicating with each other, and for that in itself to help women dealing with the issues that they're not resolving, like with breastfeeding. So I messaged my family, my two cousins, one of them who's here and the one who's she's not, and I said, do you have any moms who are breastfeeding that you can share this project with? And they sent out that message, and from those two messages, this whole thing has just spread like a web through all the moms. So all the moms who are here are connected through another mom, through another mom, through another mom. There are only 4 moms in the project who I actually approached, like literally tapped them on the shoulder kind of thing and said, would you participate in this project? And they explained it to me. So Dr. Emanuela is one of them, because I didn't know her. I didn't think she knew anyone that I knew. And so the whole thing has been about reconnecting women through sort of conceptually by actually really going back to that quite traditional format of communicating.
What's really beautiful about that, besides the fact that you achieved it and found those 101 women, but it's such a diverse network.
Yeah.
And that it really shows us how connected we all are across the planet, because you have women in here from all over the planet, from completely different cultural backgrounds.
Totally.
Which makes for such fascinating stories, because there will be one woman saying, I only ever breastfed in public it was frowned upon in my family, or I didn't feel comfortable. You'll have another woman saying, proudly breastfeeding a child of 2, saying in my culture it's unheard of not to breastfeed your child until the age of 2. And that to me was so interesting, reading those different perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fact that it has grown so organically is a very beautiful lesson in how interconnected we all are.
We can be.
Yeah, you're right, we can be. So one of my questions was going to be, did anybody decline to participate? But I guess not, given that nature.
No, there were 2, I think 2 women who declined. One woman found it was strange for her to stand. It is strange to stand and breastfeed, I understand. But she felt that was too much almost. But she came from a perspective where it didn't work for her. And there were only 2 moms on the whole project who, after being photographed, realized that it really wasn't quite the right thing to be published in a book. And apart from that, all of these moms just lovingly and wholeheartedly gave me their time.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
There were women who commented that it is difficult for me to breastfeed in public. There were lots of them.
A lot, yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the reasons they gave for that comment?
I think a lot of women were receiving bad looks, snide comments, and they were reading content on social media or overhearing conversations between people that they knew who were saying negative things about breastfeeding. And so they no longer felt comfortable. And I think one of the other huge aspects is that you don't see people breastfeeding. So it's not like it's a common, well, I don't feel like I see women. I mean, I look now. I look and I see it. If I do see someone, I usually say, that's great that you're breastfeeding. Like, well done, Mom. But I don't think that people see it enough, so they don't feel very much at ease, and it's very criticized in social media. And yeah, I mean, there's this huge thing recently on, I think it was Lufthansa or KLM, where there was this whole controversial issue about asking women to not breastfeed. You know, so there's constant.
The baby
stuff
needs to
going on.
eat mid-flight. What should she do? Yeah. I mean, it's mind-boggling, but it's also paradoxical, because as you say, you don't see women breastfeeding, and you're not going to until women feel comfortable to breastfeed in public, but they don't feel comfortable in public because they don't see other women breastfeeding in public.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to nail here, and this book I think goes a long way towards making that beautiful and normalizing it.
I hope so.
Which is fantastic. Maybe if they knew more and were better informed about the benefits of breastfeeding, that might start to change. And I include men in that they. And that might sound ridiculous because I know everybody knows that breastfeeding is good for a baby. I've breastfed 2 children. I did not know some of the information I learned reading the introduction to this book.
That's great.
So maybe we just call up Eloise, the microbiologist, is she here tonight?
She is, yeah.
Her piece was